Why does Hidari seem so weak? Or is Hidari actually not as weak as we think? Yeah, I'm Nim without the E. Let's talk for a moment about Hidari, aka Sasuke Uchiha. So far, I think there are so many reasons why Sasuke won't really return anytime soon. Because if we assume, or more accurately, compare him to some of the divine tree humans, each of them has a certain appeal in the story. I mean, let's look at Matsuri and Ryu. Regardless of who is actually the strongest after Jura, I think Matsuri and Ryu seemed so fast, or maybe even rushed. And we know that Matsuryu's debut as Divine Tree Humans was not long and certainly did not reach its climax. But unfortunately, their roles had to end abruptly. There were no plot twists or other alternatives that required them to end so quickly. Because I'm pretty sure most of the fandom would agree that the Land of Wind arc should have ended with an unexpected move from Hidari, Mamushi, or even Jura himself, who could have easily taken back Matsuri and Ryu's Togedama. But expectations are just expectations. Jura, who should have been able to take back Ryu and Matsuri's Togedama just like he did with Hidari's, simply ignored it and focused on chasing Boruto instead. Besides that, if we are still talking about the skills or power scales of several Divine Tree humans, is it still relevant to determine who is actually the strongest among the four of them? Yeah, except for Jura, because for Jura himself, we don't need to debate that he is the true GOAT, right? After I conducted a survey, or more accurately, read all your responses after several chapters came out, quite a few of you think that among the Divine Tree humans, Hidari is considered one of the weakest. Being considered weak doesn't mean he's the weakest. You know what I mean, right? Yeah, a few hours ago, I tried to conduct a vote on my YouTube channel community to see the response from the fam as to which of the four Divine Tree humans actually has the lowest ranking in terms of strength and ability. Or it could also be to see who is actually strong based on the voting results. And the majority of the fam, I was really surprised. Honestly, the most surprising result was that Mamushi was at the top among the Divine Tree humans themselves as the strongest after Jura, especially after confirming his strength, which was truly beyond reason. I mean, Mamushi has the ability to create a clone that is actually not a clone, but a real body. He can create, or more accurately, split himself into a large number of clones without reducing his chakra, stamina, strength, and so on. It is literally like a real body. Even with that ability, I'm sure we would never have guessed before that Mamushi's ability could surpass Naruto's in terms of creating clones. Yeah, because once again, Mamushi's ability is crazier than just a clone. There is even a theory that I think is even crazier. In other words, some people try to compare Mamushi's ability to be equal to or even greater than Madara's Limbo. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure I'm not spreading misinformation. In short, Madara's Limbo is one of the most absurd and overpowered techniques in the world of Naruto. When Madara had the Rinnegan and both were active, he could use this technique to create, or more precisely, summon a shadow of himself from another dimension, called the Limbo World. Now, here are some important points. The Limbo shadow is invisible and cannot be touched unless the opponent has special powers. This means that only people with Rinnegan or Sage Mode can see and feel it. More precisely, this is possible after Hagoromo passed on his chakra to Naruto and Sasuke. In addition, when he had two Rinnegan, Madara could summon 4 Limbo shadows at once, each of which had the same strength, speed, and abilities as the real Madara. So you could say he fought his enemies using 4 invisible versions of himself. But of course, its weakness lies in its time limit. In other words, Limbo can only stay active for a certain duration. After a while, those shadow clones will return to their original dimension. And like I said earlier, opponents with godlike power such as Naruto in his Six Paths form, or Sasuke with his Rinnegan, are basically the perfect counters to this technique. In short, Limbo is an invisible clone from a parallel dimension that possesses the exact same power as the real Madara. And in general, this is the point where there is an assumption that Mamushi's abilities are equal to or even greater than Limbo Madara's. If Limbo's weakness is its limited duration, then Mamushi's ability is the exception. However, its weakness lies in its drop in intelligence. So, the more Mamushi splits itself, the more its intelligence automatically decreases, which I think is actually quite terrifying. Logically, the more stupid it becomes, the more aggressive it will be, literally becoming like a wild animal. This also means that the greater its stupidity, the greater the damage it will cause. Is that right? But if we go back to a certain poll with rather unexpected results, could it be that Hidari is actually weaker than Mamushi? And can the results of Hidari's fight with Boruto and Sarada also be absolute proof that Hidari is actually weak, But it seems like I have another answer that is actually enough to prove that Hidari is still at the top as a divine tree human after Jura. Oh yeah, I also want to say that this topic is an idea from fam, and if you have any questions or theories, don't hesitate to let me know in the comments. Just please add the hashtag AskNim afterwards to make it easier. Yeah, that's what it is. In short, the answer to this question may sound quite ridiculous, but it's not entirely ridiculous. Regardless of predictions or speculations about Hidari's power that will be revealed later, I think it's all just a matter of time. I mean, look at Mamushi himself. At first, we really underestimated it, and I admit that I also underestimated it, because in reality, it was just someone who was literally not a shinobi or anything like that, but just an assistant, right? And after its debut as a divine tree human with an insect-like form, its power and attack strength weren't really that impressive. But as time went on, his strength and abilities were slowly revealed, and they were truly beyond our expectations. But that doesn't mean I conclude that Hidari will remain strong because he is the manifestation of Sasuke. Although that could also be a consideration, I think what really convinces me that he will remain at the top position as a divine tree human after Jura is his intelligence. Even though Hidari seems innocent or smarter than Mamushi, who already understands the purpose and reason for devouring Ida, I think that with the revelation in the recent chapters that he even understands the meaning of expressions commonly used by humans, such as compliments and the like, this is the starting point for why Hidari will sooner or later show strength far beyond what we imagine, and certainly more than Mamushi himself. In addition, there is one point that I think supports the idea that Hidari is not really weak. I don't mean that he is the weakest. He has found a clue or hint to maximize his strength and potential. That is the Sharingan eye. Apart from Fam's assumption and prediction that Hidari will take Sarada's Sharingan, I actually suspect that Hidari will get the Sharingan from something we never imagined before. So far, Hidari has begun to show an interest in understanding many things from a book. Now, at this point, it could also be a plot twist if his curiosity leads him to research the Sharingan eye, because, in fact, the books will lead him to several options for obtaining the power of that eye. Yeah, you know what I mean, right? Remember that the history of the Uchiha clan is not completely lost. There are definitely remnants of the clan, at least a few. No matter how this plot twist unfolds, I am sure that one of the clues will come from the book, which will reveal the path of Hidari's curiosity and prove that Hidari will remain at the top as the divine tree human after Jura. Yeah, that's how it is. But in the end, this content is just an explanation or answer to your questions, which I honestly really appreciate. But once again, if you have any questions, theories, or anything like that, let me know in the comments. And don't forget to add the hashtag Nime afterwards. So yeah, thank you for watching. I'm Nim without the E. See you in the next topic. Bye-bye, Data Bio.